So welcome everybody. Really glad to introduce the first panel of this second day. This second day of our meeting is dedicated to territorial development and reaching new audiences. The first panel about decentralization, good practices and challenges, and the second one will be more dedicated at the way we can develop audiences through performing arts in across communities and urban spaces. So in this first panel, I'm very pleased to welcome, first of all, Mrs. Dea Vidović, Director of Kultura Nova Foundation. Thank you very much for joining us in spite of your busy schedule.
Thank you for the invitation.
We have also Mrs. Natalie Perić from Zadar Monoplay Festival, who came on purpose to participate in this meeting. So thank you very much also for joining us.
Thank you.
We have our dear partners who are also who are strongly involved in the conception of this meeting and this overall focus from the very beginning, because we participated in the conception and strongly also in the organization. So we have Milan Manić from Cirkobalkana, from the Serbian part of Cirkobalkana, because you know that Cirkobalkana takes place across Serbia and Croatia. Convey my greetings also to Jadranka, who is representative of Cirkobalkana in Croatia. And we've been working a lot on this project together, so thank you once more. And Antonia Kuzmanić, who is today between her different hats. Today we will ask her to tell us, to speak about her experience as head of Room 100, which is an organization dedicated to the development of contemporary circus in Split. So we will start. I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you. Oh, something sorry, I forgot to tell you. We've been thinking with Catherine Fodry, head of TERRITORIAL Network, just to add to our program today, this morning, to add a kind of a specific time dedicated to do together somehow a kind of wrap up. So we would like to gather all the relevant and important topics that you would like to explore within the next weeks, months, and years together within TERRITORIAL Network. So all the topics, ideas that could come across your mind during those exchanges, please note, and we'll have the time to share them right after the second panel, during the installation of the buffet that we will share together. So it will be a very informal moment, but in which we could maybe draft together the future, let's say. So I just wanted to share with you some idea point of view, because it seems a bit weird to talk about decentralization. It's kind of anachronism to my mind. I don't know what your opinion is. I would maybe prefer to speak about the deconcentration, because actually it gives the idea, decentralization gives the idea to bring something to from the center and to spread it. Okay, it can work, but in everyday life, we can just consider many initiatives come also from the field. So we'd like to turn this topic somehow upside down and to restart also from the initiative growing from the field. So this is what we're going to do. What do we expect about deconcentration is to avoid this concentration, this cluster effect. We know that clusters have also good reasons to exist, because it enables a stronger networking and to strengthen also the visibility of the activity for one sector, but obviously the concentration is the opposite. So the idea is really to spread the artistic activities across the territory, to enable also smaller cities to benefit from this additional cultural life in terms of socialization, but also in terms of image. We maybe in the background we will talk about city branding or territory branding. In terms of touristic attractivity, but what's important, I guess, to our mind, we might share this point of view, is that performing arts is an important sector of economy. This is something that we never to forget. We know it, but we have to make it known. What can the artists themselves expect from deconcentration? Can they expect to maybe make a living in a territory which can be remote from the capital? Can they expect to deepen also the artistic experience towards other types of interactivity with audiences or social interactivities? Is it a temporary deconcentration? Is it a question of settlement? I like this idea of nesting an artist on a specific territory. And what can cultural operators expect also from deconcentration? Is that they can maybe benefit from spaces that they could not afford or not even find in the bigger cities. I think this question of space is also a key issue, a space where to work and a space where to show the work also. Okay, so those are a bit all the considerations we might explore or not. It will depend on your interest, and I just wanted to give this frame. And just wanted also to stress the fact that for me a roundtable is not only between the speakers, but the so-called audience for me is part of this roundtable. So I've asked all the participants to pitch very briefly some specific experiences they've done in this framework, and to share what was successful and what are the failures too. Yes.
Christine.
Yes, it's true that absolutely. Thank you for reminding me. Our last speaker will be, last but not least, will be Christine Gaillard, our special guest. She's online, and you will now we can't see her, but I think we can. Oh, sorry for this. Yeah. So she should be online. Christine, if you want, you can start the camera, so you will be with us more concretely. Hi, Christine. Christine is head of culture at Rouen Métropole, and we are very pleased that she can be online with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Christine, for being with us, because I know that for you it's a festival season, so you have many things to do. And Christine is with Laurent Patol, who is the head of cultural events at Rouen Métropole, and driving on the field this famous spring festival you will tell us about. So a very concrete and ambitious and successful experience that you will share with us. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And so you can stay online, and so we can see you. Okay. So I would like to. So feel free to react immediately after all experiences that will be shared with our guests. So we start, as I told you, turning things upside down. I would like to hear some initiatives from Antonia Kuzmanić and our team. about especially one project that you have been developing over the past 2 years, if I'm not wrong, which is called the Circus in the Periphery,
Yes.
which is kind of provocative title or not, depends on the point of view.
So hi everybody, and thank you again for invitation to participate as a speaker. 100 is based in Split on the Adriatic coast, and we started as artists in 2010, and we were touring until 2015. And then started doing different projects of development of contemporary circus in our city, mostly with international artists, about distribution of different and presenting different performances, and also education. But part of like personal experience of what is culture in smaller city, we decided in 2020 to study the project that is called the Circus on the Periphery. The program is dedicated to bringing contemporary circus art to really small communities, small cities on the islands, in the inland, and in really small city like Gorski Kotar, Hrvatsko Zagorje, and so on. So it was strongly inspired by Kino Mediterranean project, which is run by my dear friends and colleagues from Festival Mediteranskog Filma, Mediterranean Film Festival in Split. So they have started many years ago to bring cinema, bring movies back to the smaller cities, because in Yugoslavia we had a very wide spread of network of cities with cinemas around Dalmatia, and there was the venues already. So they brought cinemas back, and we have been working really closely together for many years. And then I decided that it's time to also do different performing arts program. And in 2020, we started the project with Lastovo Island and with mountain of Mostar. So it's not only really small cities and small communities, is also the location that are strange, or the location that you are not expecting to see contemporary circus. So I think we can agree that when you climb on a mountain, you are not expecting to see a contemporary circus artist there. So just to give you like a brief situation, how is the culture on smaller cities? There is very few programs running through the year. So mostly everything is dedicated to the summer season. And somehow in the summer season, the cultural program is very traditional. It is, I don't know why, but like touristic boards and the smaller cities think that they will attract tourists with traditional program, which is also great, but it's not only that. Tourists also want to see a very contemporary program, and we are there, but mostly we are there for the local citizens. The program is not focused on the tourists, it's focused on the local citizens, because they are basically left alone during the whole year, except during the summer. And then they are mostly actually working in the touristic sector, with of course doing everything for tourists. So the Circus on the Periphery is mostly dedicated to local citizens, and we are trying to really do it in the not touristic season. And there are some challenges how to do it then, because it's also important to think about the scheduling, the planning, which is connected with how our sector is financed in Croatia, that we always receive results very, very late. So somehow when we communicate what we can do in the year, it ends up in that we are doing a program during the summer, which is not the goal and the first and primary reason to do this project. In the 2 years, we managed to host different performances from the international artists, but also Croatian artists. And we managed to visit 10 different cities. So it has been 4 different islands. Last of all, we had Shorta, and we are going to Zlarin this year. And we managed to do it in 6 different cities. So it's Klanjec, Gornja Stubica, Veliko Trgovišće, which is all around Zagreb, like 45 to 50 minutes from Zagreb. And also we are going to visit Podgora and Delnice. Delnice is really in the heart of Croatia in Gorski Kotar. And we've been 2 times to Mosor mountain. It has been a lot of good moments and lots of challenges. We witnessed that it's really a program that is needed with the community because there is so many interests in hosting a contemporary circus performance. We did it till now with just sending an email to the local community with finding a local NGO and finding a touristic board. And we are going there for them for free. So they are not financially involved in the project, which I think is very important in the beginning of this kind of program. We are bringing everything. We are taking care of all the financial aspects. And they are there to host us just in the kind of, we need permission to use a local, to urban space, like a public space, and they are doing this kind of small production, but they don't put any budget inside the project, which can be a challenge for 100, I have to admit, but we think it's very important to come as a free program for the local partners and also for community. The performances are completely free for the audience. And it has been amazing. Like it has been amazing experience to see how this kind of project is welcome and needed within the audience. We always try to find a performance that needs some time to set up in the space, so it attracts audience that is just passing by. It has been great to see in Gornja Stubica last year. We were being invited to perform in front of the primary school, and the kids were all day around us, really like asking what is going to be, what are you doing, when it's going to happen, and then they come, and for like 300 of them, they of course call all their parents and friends, and like the whole, there is like a feeling that the whole city comes to see us. This year, I'm really happy that we are managing to do another step, and it's the workshop with kids and with youth, because after the performance, you always see kids doing a cartwheel, trying to juggle, and then we are trying to do like a small educational part. The idea behind this project, of course, behind the decentralization of our project and really going through the Croatia, really going to the smaller city where there is no circus organization, so there is not a programming, is also to find these NGOs and to find this touristic board and to really try to push them, for them to program contemporary circuit without us, to really discover this new performing art form for them and to find them a solution how they can do it without us, and to really spread the contemporary circus throughout Croatia. We have a good example with Klanjec, with the house collective that there is there, but maybe I can share this after. Yeah, and like we are strongly going with this project and has a really good feedback from the local community. And I hope like we will be recognized by the head touristic board very soon, because we are really trying to document everything we are doing. We are hiring drones and we have amazing footages of this actually amazing nature, and it can be used to like further promote our country as a touristic place, but also like a beautiful nature, because somehow especially Split is now being like, it's somehow promoted as a party location, which is not, and there is amazing nature around us, and we are trying to push this kind of like, there is really like Mediterranean that is like really there. It's not only parties, ultra music festival, Game of Thrones, this kind of logic. Yeah, that's it. I don't know.
It's a lot. Thank you very much, Antonia. Does anyone want to react? It's quite impressive, I have to say. Just to design the frame for especially from our guests from France, but not only because maybe not all the programmers from the southeastern Europe who are attending this meeting doesn't know about Croatian geography, but for instance, Lastovo, it's a beautiful island, but it's also the most remote island in Croatia. During summer, you have to take 2 different boats. It's almost one-day trip from Split to Lastovo.
It's at least 5 hours of drive with the ferry, and yeah, you have to, it's one ferry, but it's quite long. It's amazing, but it's also really remote, and there is 100 people living on an island apart from the summer season, and even in the summer season there's not so many of them.
What I find very interesting also is this interaction that you are trying to find out with tourist boat. I think it can be also one of the key about decentralization. I think that you can't do it alone. You can do it, but it's not a sustainable model.
No.
So it's really good that, if I understand, that you make a kind of a demonstration to advocate for this possibility and to advocate also for another kind of branding. Why not? In which it's a win-win situation. So
the idea is to actually show them that there is different kind of performing arts, and they can do it alone. It's not so difficult, but it's financially demanding. And we propose that, like, if they don't know what kind of contemporary circus they can bring, we can always do it for them. We can do the one that is doing the programming, because we are trying, in the kind of artists that we are bringing, we are trying to find like a balance of contemporary circus that we can defend the aesthetic of it, because it's important for us to keep the aesthetic of contemporary circus, but not go so crazy in the innovation and the concept, because it's actually the really audience that first time discover contemporary circus. So it has to be accessible for them. And we are really trying, and it's proven now that the interactive performances, they really adore it. So we are really trying to find this kind of contemporary circus that can be performed outdoor in the not so ideal conditions, and they can really communicate with the audience. And we are trying to push them to do the part of a job by themselves, and then we can support them in the other part. It's just too much of things to do for us, and we have a really small team of a person and a half.
Okay, thank you very much. We will then elaborate on how different stakeholders and part of the ecosystem can cooperate together just to strengthen such kind of initiative. Yes?
I have a reaction and a question. But it's also something that could be shared about this concentration in general. How is it? How do you reassure that the population there is really willing to welcome that? I'm asking this because I heard of another project, cultural project in Lastovo, which was really difficult to organize and to create because of the lack of sustentation there by the local community. They were not so interested, and so that's the question when you decentralize as well. That's to make sure that you are bringing projects that will fit the will of the community and to build together, to build with them.
Well, all the locations that we've been there by now, like all the different 10 locations, there has been some kind of history of collaboration. So for example, in Lastovo, I did a couple of acrobatic workshops just for primary school kids 5 or 6 years ago. And then there is this memory of, okay, it's been fun. The kids know about it, the teachers knows about it. And it's really like important to collaborate with the whole community. And then we are sure that they need it, but it's really easy, like Sholta, we did it with Unloop Prolong, with a small production, Passing Swiftly, that they are doing now. Here we didn't have any kind of collaboration. I just called a woman that is in charge of the NGO that is kind of keen to bring new stuff. And then I have like an honest conversation with her in January. And I explained the project, what is the project about, and then I asked her, like, do you want to do it? Like it's free for you, we just need your collaboration of inviting people, giving us small production support with the location. And you can immediately feel that they are completely into it because she called the football team, she called the school immediately, she called the touristic board, and everybody was like, yeah, we are going to do it. We just need to think about the schedule because the school is finished at that moment. They have a football training, and like we have to think about all the different schedules because like where there is something that is happening, everybody is coming. Like the public library, everybody is involved, and this is great. And like in Sholta, there will be like 50 people, but that was the maximum because it was April, it wasn't summer. And we were very happy about it, and they were happy about it, how it went. And they're always asking, like, okay, let's do it again, what we can do next. But for us, it was very important to have some kind of history of collaboration. Like next year, I hope we will go to Slavonia because there is nothing about contemporary circus, and there we don't have any kind of history. And it's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to this kind of challenges because I think it's important to spread through the whole Croatia.
Thank you very much, Antonia. It gives me a kind of transition from, because if we head to Slavonia a bit further, we arrive in Serbia. What about some initiatives that you might be willing to share with us in Serbia, Milan?
Thank you, everybody, and hello. What I will share is that we are working there as Association Circusfera, connected with the Cirkorama for the last 15 years. And our initiatives, the biggest initiative is Cirkobalkana. If we talk about decentralization, and Cirkobalkana for now was centralized in the capitals, and we started with the idea of sharing circus as a tool of work, but also circus as an art form, but also circus as a way of living. Our idea was to connect cities in the region and not performing only in the capital. So till now we had a festival in Belgrade, Zagreb. We had a festival in Ljubljana, but also we tried with smaller cities in the region as Pula in Istria and Novi Sad in Serbia. Circusfera in Belgrade works mostly as an association for development of contemporary circus through the education. During the year, we have different activities which are connected to the education with the young audience, but also we are trying to develop actually to make young people more involved in circus. So we had 3 generations. Now it's a 3rd generation of our circus artists, our circus school. From Circusfera already Some people went to the schools in France and abroad. Most of them stayed there, but we wish to bring them in Serbia and to try to spread the activities all over the Serbia. So we're mostly based in Belgrade, and I cannot say that we have a lot of activities all around the Serbia connected to the development of contemporary circus. We are working together and very closely with the Novi Sad, with the people from Novi Sad. I mean, the scene in Serbia is even smaller than in Croatia. Not a lot of artists, not a lot of companies, not a lot of festivals. Cirkobalkana is the only festival in Serbia actually for contemporary circus. But what I can say is that connection with and how to develop circus in such a small country connected to the circus. I mean, it's a new form. Even we are working for 15 years. Is to connect with other festivals. So that's how we actually find a way to put the circus in as an important topic to the public, but also to the cultural policy makers. We connect with the BIT festival. They're actually from the beginning, almost from the beginning of the festival, and now for 5 years we are working closely together with BITEF as a side program and trying to merge theater, dance, and contemporary circus, and try to show to the public that circus is also.
Thank you very much. What I was thinking about the fact that the concentration means also to enable new generations of artists to rise, as you were mentioning, and this capacity building programs that you're leading also, I said program of all the festivals are really important for that. But you mentioned that most of the artists are going then abroad, so kind of challenge would be maybe to create a situation in which they could create their own nest in different cities and settle, and from there try to spread. It could be just an idea that popped in my mind. It can be maybe the new challenge.
I mean, for sure, it will be a new challenge and a big challenge, because it's hard to work on something and to develop something in the atmosphere that people don't know what is it. Like Antonia says, in all those small cities, people are keen to see something new, but they don't know what it is, and we have to show them, and we have to work there. But to stay and live from an art in a small city in Serbia, concretely now, it's very hard. To be an artist in a small, I mean, to be an artist in a capital is hard.
To be an artist.
To be an artist, point. Yes, and especially our artists who go abroad and see the possibilities, variety of possibilities for living and for doing art. It's very hard to bring them back, and for us, this is for now the biggest issue that we have to solve. I mean, it's good that they go, they take the education, but also it's very important that this education comes to come back and spread around.
So the development of such festival as Circus on the Periphery could enable maybe to bring them back and to develop a kind of specific relationship with some territories.
We should have many festivals then to bring them back.
Oh, yeah,
But yeah, it's something that we are discussing a lot in the association in the circus network that we are building here in Croatia is that like contemporary circus is okay at the moment, but we are really thinking about the next generation, and we really need to have policymakers on our side to think about the future generation and to have a really strategy. What are the next steps that we need to do? Because yeah, there was already this conversation of we need to have a circus academy, but we are asking ourselves, but who is going to teach the next? Because okay, I can teach acrobatics maybe for like 5 years next, but then like there is so many different circus disciplines, for example. So we need to push our younger artists to go abroad, to educate themselves, but at some point we need to have a strategy how to bring them back and to maybe run a school or run some new projects. But this is something that we have been discussing
for a long time.
Yeah, for a long time, and we have been discussing with the minister last week about how to deal with everything that is there in the future, and we need to actually react now and have a plan now. So yeah, how to nest many circus artists around our countries is a big challenge, but we are already thinking about it. So.
And if I may say, there's going to be some change because right now you're in the category of innovative practices, and there's going to be a change. The new circus is going to be involved, going to be together in the package with performing arts, which is already a statement of recognition, yeah, which is a very important step forward, yeah, in the sense what you were saying. Yeah.
Definitely. So this means that you will benefit from the recognition of Ministry of Culture on one hand. On the other hand, you have this strong network. I have to say it's really impressive to see how you work with a high level of coordination between all your festivals. And it's very, for us as a kind of interoperator, it's really precious also. I think that Catherine Foddy won't say anything else about that. So thank you very much for this French provided about the situation of the circus and all these initiatives. So you're doing a lot that needs to be done, but it seems that we're on a good track, which is quite nice to hear.
So, but just to underline something that we launched last year and we will launch again. And in June and then in October or in the autumn, a campaign, a regional campaign to inform about what are the initiatives on circus in the region. So it's called Circus Must See, like Southeastern Europe, and it's a way to show that it's really strong, that there are so many things happening all over the region, because it's not only Serbia and Croatia, there is also Bosnia doing things in Travnik, for instance, which is a little town that it's Oliver. What happens? It's Oliver Jovic, who is working with Nihal in Mes Festival, and he is also interested in circus, so he's doing something outside of Sarajevo, and it's all about circus family as well. I guess that it's also a network of people that are interested in that and that are spreading it out and willing really strongly to make it happen. So congrats to everyone, but also to know that there is this campaign. We will need also all the stakeholders to help us to spread it out and to make it visible. So,
So we will move to the other field because yesterday we talked about cross-disciplinarity between circus and dance, cross-aesthetics. So we're moving to the field of dance. Thank you very much, Natalie, for being here with us. So maybe you would like to present. We would like you to present us some initiatives that you are developing in Zadar, in the framework of the festival, Zadar Monoplay, but also maybe with Zadar Dance Company.
Hello, everybody, and thank you, Thomas, again for inviting us. My name is Natalia Perić, and I'm here with my colleague Josipa Štulić, and we are representing today Zadar Dance Ensemble and Monoplay Festival. Sanja Petrovski is artistic director of Zadar Dance Ensemble and Monoplay Festival, and she couldn't be here today, so we are here instead of her. And one thing that she told me I must say when I come here is this: the most important part of Zadar contemporary dance and art scene happened in 1997. Why then? Because in that period, local government changed and the director of Croatian National Theatre in Zadar changed. And the director who came then to be in charge, she was open to accept all the other organizations and all the other artists and contemporary artists to come to Zadar. And then our dear colleague Mirna Žagar came with MAPA, the Moving Academy of Performing Arts, which was the part of Croatian Institute of Dance and Movement. And in that next 6 years, that means from 1997 till 2002, it was the most productive time of Zadar contemporary art and dance, because in that period of time, everything happened. It was workshops, it was educations, not only for dancers and actors, but for light designers, for youngers. It was really a lot of things happening in that period. And that was a really nice beginning for developing contemporary art in our little town. But 6 years from 1997, again, the local government changed. And from 2002 till now, it was a bit stagnation in the local government and support by local cultural institutions. But meanwhile, in that same period, we as Zadar Dance Ensemble continue to grow, because we are developed in 1991 by Sanja Petrovski and Nives Šimatović-Predovan. Until now, Sanja Petrovski is artistic director of Zadar Dance Ensemble and Monoplay Festival. And in the beginning of Zadar Dance Ensemble, we were a small ensemble, and the only thing that we managed to do was small performances on our hometown, or yes, and maybe some celovečernje predstave.
All night.
Oh, yes. And that was not much. It was lack of financial support and the lack of spaces to work in. And as the time passed by, the young girls and boys who were then members of Zadar Dance Company ensemble, they went to take next step to do to continue to develop and continue to do the education in other dance companies. They went to SID in Austria, to Zagreb. They went away from Zadar. And something happened 2009, and that moment was the beginning of Monoplay Festival. And 2009, our member, Matea Bilosnic, she really wanted to continue her education. She really wanted to go to SID in Austria, but because of lack of finance, Sanja Petrovski decided to do the little festival, which all the income of the festival, of the tickets, we will give to Matea to continue to educate herself. And from that time, a really small festival, which was only one day, it was 5 or 6 Zadar dancers. 14 years later, we have international festival that lasts for 5 days, and it's really recognized and in Croatia and in other countries in Europe. So in that period of time, I'd say in the last 14 years, Zadar Dance Ensemble really make a really big step to decentralization, because all the girls and boys who went away from Zadar, they came back to Zadar after they finished their academies. And now we are big big people. No, we are grown people, we are not young people anymore. And I think that why Zadar Dance Ensemble is so productive is because we really love to do what we are doing, and we are never doing things just to be done. We always have some idea what we want to create, and we try to create it. So we never do, oh, what we should do. No, never. We always know what we want to do, and then we are just trying to build it. And with Monoplay Festival, that was maybe the most important project of Zadar Dance Ensemble, especially because it's international festival now. Except of Monoplay Festival, in the last 5 years, we have some programs that are really make a big step in our development, and we really hope our professionalization, because now we have 6 or 7 grown members that we all have dance academies behind us, and we really have this motivation and urge to work and to create. And in the last 2 years, we started something that is called Dance Season. So we are, during the whole year, we are inviting other organization and other dance companies from Croatia to come with their dance pieces to Zadar. Except of that, we have educational program, which we also invite all the other pedagogues and choreographers to come to Zadar to spread their knowledge with younger members of Monoplay, of contemporary art. Why did I tell the story about the local government? Because we know that our development is not followed by support of local government as they maybe could. They are supporting us with financially, maybe not as much as we wanted. We will always say there is never enough money, but maybe with spaces. Because now we are in the moment where in Zadar we have a lot of new open spaces. We have Kneževa Rector's Palace, we have a Providur's Palace, we have 2 theaters, and now in a few months it will be open center for youngers and for performing arts. So we have a lot of spaces, but we don't have our own space, and we really hope that this will change in the next few months, because that would definitely help us to develop more and more. Yes. I probably forget something, but maybe later.
Very clear.
Sorry, just one more thing I really want to say. I really want to thank Kultura Nova Foundation, because they really notice our work and our development, and they really notice all the artists who came back to Zadar to create and to make contemporary art, to put it on a higher level. And it really helped us that we can do it as we wanted to do.
So you're doing a transition just a bit early, because you're anticipating a nice transition, but it makes me very comfortable about the path I wanted to do. So thank you very much. Before you have any reactions, any questions? Yes.
Just a reaction. Thank you for saying everything that you said, because we know the same things in Serbia. I think it is very important to say at these places the influence of local policies and national policies as well on the field of culture and all the things that we are dealing with. And the lack of support very often, and how the political changes are actually influences also people at the cultural institutions, and how the directors are being changed with every political change. It's also showing probably the instability of institutions itself, as things are very personal and it depends on one person who is being there. That's not normal.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is something that we always say, because it always depends on that one person.
Yeah.
If we don't have Sanja Petrovski, which is our one person, maybe this Zadar Dance Ensemble wouldn't grow as much, as because Sanja are giving us a completely freedom and we are really democratic organization. So everybody is allowed to make suggestions, and everybody is allowed, if it has a clear idea, you can do it. So Sanja gives us that opportunity, and that's why we are free to create, and that's why we want to create more and more.
And I would just also like to thank you for saying that you came back to Zagreb, but I just want to know, you did academy, and all of you who came back to Zagreb I mean, the people who came back to Zagreb, they did academy in Zagreb or abroad?
Some of them are in Zagreb, because the Zagreb Academy in Zagreb is open just a few years ago. But most of our colleagues, they finished academy in SID in Austria, and we have two of them finished in Amsterdam and Rotterdam, and they are all back. I mean, there's sometimes they work abroad around Europe, but eventually everybody came back. Yes. Yes.
We are this generation that if we wanted to study dance, we were like
Obliged to go. I understand it's the same situation.
Otherwise it would be too old.
It's nice to know that some of them came back, because I think also what you were mentioning in terms of circus, there is a case maybe to be discussed also about decentralization or the concentration of circus on European level. You know, yes, many artists are going towards France in dance field. Many of them are going to Germany, Austria, and we need also some of them to come back to the so-called peripheries.
Thank you, because I think that you have identified a few parameters which are, I think, key parameters. First of all, the question of course, local institutions have allowed you to start with something, eventually to grow, and also the role of education, the question of time. This was also suggested.
Thomas, juste que tu parles un tout petit peu plus fort, parce que je suis pas sûre que Christine t'entende.
Ah, c'est vrai, vous entendez pas bien? Si? Okay. Yeah, I think it was also suggested by Antonia, the time that is needed to make something grow on a territory. This is also, I think, a key issue, and the reason why things need to be anticipated. It's not always easy, because, as we say in France, political time is not is always quicker, and if you are aiming at making something grow, it's completely different scale. So,
but I think that in our case, everything we want to create, I know that we will do it, but I think it will be much easier if we have bigger support of local government, you know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's actually the point, because you mentioned it was only 6 years between an ideal period for you to grow and favor in your work, and 6 years probably of political time was probably not enough for you to be able to capitalize on what you had built, and on the support of the public as well, to plead to the new political.
Because with the audience, you make audience really hard, and you can lose it like this, and that's why it's really important to have a local government behind you to work on that, building the audience, to tell the audience, hey, you need to see this, it's really important for you to participate in this kind of stuff.
Because I was wondering if you could do the opposite, actually, all the way around, and really take lead on the audience.
And we are doing that, especially, I mean, we are doing that from the beginning, but especially this year, we have Josipa is coordinating the, how is it called?
Audience
development
this year
program.
So maybe if I can add, that we exist for 30 years. I mean, not two of us, yes, we are 33, but we are not in an ensemble for 30 years. But I think this shows a lot of stubbornness, I think, from our bosses, let's say. But this year we decided, okay, this year let's focus a little bit on the audience. But it's never only audience. It's always education, performances, festival, even the concert after the festival is important. The beer we're going to sell at the festival, like everything is so important. So I remember we took this year one educational platform of Kultura Nova, and we were supposed to write, what do we do? And the sheet was like, there was 10 things we do. And they were like, you have to focus. And we are like, I just don't know how, because we are doing many things. Like I could recognize in both of stories we heard so far ourselves.
Yeah.
So it's
and it's a good thing that you mentioned, because why Monoplay Festival is so important, because it's not just that one solo performance, it's the whole evening. Because before the performance we have, for example, the presentation of some new book that came out about dance that year, and after the performance we have off program, as we call it. We have some contemporary artist or photographer or performer or musician who plays outside the puppet theater. And we have really good collaboration with puppet theater in Zadar, because they allow us to do all that Monoplay Festival in their spaces, in their theater and outside. So it's a whole evening program. It's not just you come to watch that one performance. It's not that, it's much more than that.
Since I have a bit different point of views from my own background, and the feeling I have is that from a local institution, since you feel that there is a good team handling doing the job, and I think it come also from your background as an artist, as a team, and as an artistic team, something that we feel very strongly also with Circus. You feel that you have a team which is capable and which has a vision. And you will, of course, be willing to support, but not maybe, but on the other side, maybe you will have the feeling that you are strong enough to carry on by yourself. I think that this might be also into consideration. But you were underlining something which is really important. The next game changer for you would be to benefit from a space.
Definitely.
And besides the local authorities, it becomes very hard. I know that some artists in Croatia who have in mind to create a kind of new economic model to find out to reuse some spaces, but it's not that easy. Thank you very much, Antonia, for your contribution. It's really positive experience. And a very good transition with Kultura Nova Foundation. Thank you very much, Dea, for being with us. I wanted to hear from you about the position of Kultura Nova, a bit in between artistic organization and institutions. Somehow you contribute to strengthen the stitches of this nest, from my point of view.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you, French Institute and all other partners for the invitation. I'm really happy to be today here with us, and definitely, obviously, I will bring something else compared to the previous interventions that really focus on performing arts. Contemporary performing arts, and give us a different, really amazing and great examples. Some of them we already supported, but unfortunately many other we're still not able to support, and this really increase frustration for our beneficiaries or potential beneficiaries, but also for us as institutions. When we exchange thoughts, let's say the last week when you invited me, you asked me also to start with providing a few information about Kultura Nova, because you supposed probably very well that not all participants or everyone here are familiar with Kultura Nova Foundation. So I will just start with the Kultura Nova, and then I will jump to the basically from practices of performing arts and talk about the cultural policy and the frame related to the decentralization, starting with some theoretical overview and then looking in Kultura Nova practices within of decentralization. So just a few sentences about Kultura Nova. So it's a public foundation established by Republic of Croatia 11 years ago, but we started to operate 10 years ago in 2012. The main purposes of Kultura Nova is to provide financial and professional support to civil society organizations in contemporary arts and culture. And we are really, really unique as an institution, not only in Croatia, then really on a European and global level. And many of our partners recognize that, again, not only in Croatia, then wider. So we basically provide and work as a grant-making foundation, but also as an operating foundation, which means that we provide grants for NGOs, non-governmental, non-profit associations in different fields. Performing arts, visual arts, music, audiovisual sector, and so on. But we are also, as I said, operating foundations. It means that we, as a foundation, organize our own activities within our research and development department and organize different kinds of educational program for our beneficiaries, dominantly in the field of management, governance, leadership, or how we call it in our new strategic plan, work in arts and culture. We also conducted different research and participate in different international projects, and through all this kind of activities, we try to strengthen the civil society organizations because this is our main purpose and the reason for existence. What is also really important to mention, as my, let's say, the last sentence in this intro on Kultura Nova, is that Kultura Nova is the result of successful bottom-up initiatives led by civil society organization. So basically the idea of establishing Kultura Nova came from the civil society organization years ago, almost 20 years ago. But as many of you said, it's the changes is not possible to have it all over tonight. So the advocacy process really took a few years, 7-8 years, I would say. But finally, the Ministry of Culture really recognized the idea and necessity of establishing Kultura Nova as a new foundation, public foundation that would be dedicated to civil society organization. Why? Because in the Croatia is, as many other countries in our neighborhood, is a post-socialist countries with a really strong legacy of the previous system, which means bad and or positive and negative things. As a result of this legacy, the Croatian cultural policy frame is dominantly still focused on the public cultural institutions, which is really good because we really have, compared to many other post-socialist countries, we have strong cultural institutions. But at the same time, the newcomers entered to the game, let's say, from the non-profit civil sector, but also from the private sector. And unfortunately, our cultural policy system, which is not transformed in the last 30 years, wasn't able to answer to all their needs and interests, let's say. So that was the main reason behind establishing of Kultura Nova Foundation. So we started to work, as I said, basically 10 years ago. And we celebrated last year our first big celebration of 10 years, but this year we can again celebrate because in 2012, we basically published our first call. So I think that is totally enough information about Kultura Nova, but definitely I will come back to Kultura Nova talking about decentralization or talking from that lenses. But I really would like to start with some, let's say, theoretical overview of the decentralization and the concept of decentralization that is, as many other terms in cultural policy, really, really complex. And really depends on the context, on different geography, but also political and administrative system in which it applies. And in that line, the specific context really imply different typology of decentralization. But in general, we can say that the concept of decentralization means transfer of authority and responsibility from the central government to, let's say, autonomy bodies, to local authorities, but also independent organizations. And talking about the local authorities and what we mentioned earlier, how it is really important to have the local authorities who invest more or should invest more and more in the cultural scene, I think that it's really important, because if we look at the budget right now, total budget for culture, for example, in Croatia, in the whole country, we will see that basically the majority of the budget, more than half of the budget, is coming from the local authorities. So, but at the same time, and especially in the civil society organization, they look dominantly on the national level, because on the local authority, they do not have adequate support, including on the national level, but this increased the pressure, let's say, on all of us who work on the national level. So it's definitely needed to work on all levels of the cultural policy. So, however, I would say that there are two main aspects of decentralization. One is related to the territorial, let's say, dispersion. That is also results of this shift that happened in the last, especially in the last 30 years, from nation state to local development. While on the other side, it refers also to the decentralized decision making. I will explain it later. So when we come to the cultural policy, these terms often basically refer to three main, really complementary categories. One is cultural, another one is a fiscal, and third one is a political decentralization. But what is also true, let's say, that the term of decentralization is really, in many cases, arbitrarily interpreted and understand as well implemented according to that. But let's come back to explain and to understand all these three main categories, the cultural, fiscal, and political one. So the cultural decentralization is linked on one side to unequal opportunities in culture, that we can also connect with the issue of cultural democracy. I think that many of you already appointed some of this really important aspect. On the other side, the cultural decentralization means territorial dispersion of resources, but also actors, different activities. So this is what we have as a main understanding of cultural decentralization. Then the fiscal decentralization is related to the level of expenditure among cultural policy levels, national and subnational ones. Something of that I already mentioned in the context of Croatia, but it also refers to disparity of investment in different sectors, in different fields, in different disciplines, among the different actors, and also represent such a huge challenges for the cultural policy. Talking about the political decentralization, we can understand as a decreasing power in the decision-making process concerning the power balance between different levels, decision makers, authorities, but also actors. And as such, I would really say that we have to approach to the political decentralization from the lenses of participatory practices and governance. So now I would like to jump again or come back to Kultura Nova and see how Kultura Nova deals with all these three categories of decentralization. So the cultural decentralization is a part of our grant making program, which is our core business, as I said earlier. But it is also integrated in our research and development program. And according to the territorial distribution of grants, we design criteria through which we stimulate less developed regions. So with this positive, I would say, positive discrimination of the most developed city, we try to give better opportunities to organizations across country with less resources to get also funding through Kultura Nova. So what does it mean on the practical level? So, for example, organizations from Knin, Sinj, Pakrac, Vinkovci, Klanjec, Lastovo, all different cities, which we also heard earlier, will get the highest mark, let's say 10 points, while actors from Zagreb will receive only 1 point. So I can also give you another examples of what we do. In one of our support programs, through which we provide really small amounts of grants to support actors during the crisis last year, actors from all cities that apply on that call, on that grants, received basically the grants because we created a list of approved applicants in a way that we selected from each city the best applications. So at the end, we provided 20 grants, but all 20 grants went almost to the 20 different cities. Otherwise, probably the half of the grants will stay in Zagreb, which is dominantly the case. But the Zagreb is the capital of the city, is the center of resources, and it's also linked to this fact, which we can't ignore. So with the purpose of creating support for decentralization of cultural program across the country, Kultura Nova also provides the grants for collaborative program platforms through which at least 7 organizations from different parts of Croatia exchange their cultural activities and collaborate on different projects. In that way, the cultural program from one city basically are distributed around the country, and audiences have a chance to see cultural programs from other parts of Croatia in their own town. And we also created the support and the grants program for a collaborative platform in Europe. And in that case, we also stimulate Croatian organizations to collaborate with other organizations, firstly in the region of Southeastern Europe. And this is how we started with this grant program, but also now with other organizations in Europe. Unfortunately, I have to say again that for us, it's a big frustration that we really have a limited amount of the money to support more organizations, to support more collaborative platforms, but also to increase the allocation of budget for each collaborative platform that we support, specifically because we are the only institutions in Croatia that work and create, design this kind of the program. With, as I said, main purposes of supporting, contributing to decentralization of cultural activities in the country. I mentioned earlier, if you remember, the cultural democracy as one of the really important aspects when we talk about decentralization. And cultural democracy is one of Kultura Nova's strategic goals. Participation, as we all know, participation in culture became really important, I would say, cutting edge issue, but also probably the most or the big challenges for the contemporary cultural policy, since many citizens still do not have the same opportunity to participate in culture due to different kind of barriers: psychological, social, physics, economic, geographical, educational, language, and many other barriers. So taking into account that civil society organizations which we support basically do not have enough capacity to develop their relations with the people, with the citizens, with their audience. We started in 2017 to provide support for participation in culture through our grant-making program, but also through our educational activities. And recently, just yesterday, basically, we got a printed book Inside and Out about the practices of cultural participation in culture, of course, and how organization can transform their own practices towards, let's say, audience-centered and to work more in cultural participation. Do I have more time to go to other, or you want to stop?
Unfortunately, it's my fault because I should have framed a bit more the discussion from the very beginning, but we had so many interesting participants that I couldn't be so good. Thank you very much. It clarifies very well, from my point of view, the role of an intermediate actor within this overall ecosystem. And we have understood to what extent it's really an ecosystem, because it's not the first mention of this link between the local and the European level, which is a bit not very intuitive when you talk about decentralization within a country. But now it's become very clear that we have to somehow make all the efforts that we all do as different various stakeholders, make it the most organic possible, because it can have a really influence on the other parts of the chain of value and concretely on the field. So I like very much this idea also that decentralization is not only a local and regional question. It's become now a European question, and we can drag some resources and put together around different point of view. It can be education, it can be capacity building, can be implementation of products. So it's really let's think global. I hope that our dear guests from Rouen are still available. I'm really sorry for it happens every time during these panels, and I made a wish to be shorter, but evidently we're in the same situation as every panel happening. We're a bit late on the schedule. Hello, Eleftherios. Thank you for joining. So, our guest was the next panel already, but I'm glad that you will be part also of this first one. You're more than welcome. Maybe can I just ask you to turn off your microphone, so just to be sure that we have a good connection with Rouen.
Good morning, Thomas.
So I would like to the Kuzmanić is the director of cultural affairs at Rouen Métropole, with Laurent Paton, head of cultural events at Métropole. So you will just briefly tell us a bit about what is Rouen Métropole, what it means as a kind of territory, and what is Spring Festival, what its concept. And it can, from my point of view, it can be it can underline the role of the institutions to assemble and empower the different actors. So it is also related to what they just told us about, and maybe what is the kind of additional value of this experience in terms of cooperation between stakeholders, and also the impact on audience development. The floor is yours. Thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you for your invitation, Thomas. And at first, you can see a map that will help you situate Rouen and the Métropole Rouen Normandy in France. So, and now a map to introduce you quickly, Metropole. It's a territory with a population of 500,000 and composed of 71 towns of different size. We have big towns with a high population density. The most important is Rouen, 100,000 people live in Rouen. And on the other hand, smaller rural villages. For example, there is 45 villages of less than 40,500 inhabitants, and the smallest has 300 inhabitants. So you can see some pictures. It's important to understand that because we have to account to reflect these differences in order to organize the events. The metropole implements public policies around two issues. At first, social and ecological transition, and the transformation of this territory through culture, and especially with the Rouen candidacy as European Capital of Culture in 2028. The cultural policy is based on three major axes, three stakes. The culture for all, the metropole of knowledge, inclusive, festive and generous. The culture by or with all, the unique, creative and collaborative metropole, and the culture everywhere, a solidarity and attractive metropole open to the world. The metropole implements a policy to enhance, to value its architectural heritage. It finances cultural venues, and it subsidizes and organizes major culture events. This brings me to my next point, because Spring Festival is the perfect illustration of this cultural policy between proximity and attractiveness, between local and international. So, sorry, I have my notes before in front of me. You can see we are going to show you a little. Yeah.
The situation is under.
So, I need to explain before the base of festival. In Normandy, we have two circus poles, two cultural venues focused on circus with a national label, La Brèche in Cherbourg and Le Cirque Théâtre in Elbeuf. They have the same director with also the artistic directors. Her name is Evelyn Rapeau, and it's a real opportunity to develop partnership between them because they are complementary. La Brèche organize artistic residencies, and Le Cirque Théâtre is in charge of the diffusion of the artists. So Spring is a festival organized by the two circus poles throughout Normandy, but elective representatives of the metropole wanted to accompany the Spring Festival development on our territory. So Spring has had a strengthening of its programming on metropole organized by us. The main purpose of Spring is to organize a festival with all the stakeholders for all inhabitants and everywhere on the metropole. We have to develop a partnership network to cooperate with the team of the venues and to involve inhabitants. You can see it's a map of spring in Normandy. You can see the concentration of the programming and the density of shows and performances on Metropole. And just to remind you the map of Metropole, you can see now all the places, the venues where spring take place. I let you read the figures of spring increasing from year to year. More cities and villages, more spectators, with 2 editions cancelled because of COVID. You can see, you can read the figure for this year. So now the festival engineering, how does it work with partners? The 2 circus poles and our director are in charge of the artistic direction, artistic management. Evelyn Rapo chooses the shows, a catalog of shows of performance, and we organize spring on our territory. We choose the shows depending on the budget, the different places, the different venues, the availability of companies, because we think we know better than them our territory, our village, our venues, our places, and our inhabitants. It's unusual to work in that way. We have 2 kinds of partnership, and every partner stakeholder provide its input at all stages. We have with the venues, we decide together on the choice of the show, on the sharing of the budget, the cost of the show, and the project development. You can read it. And with the municipalities, we carry out the whole project and we fund the project. Their skills are really valuable. When we say unconventional venues, it's because we can organize a performance in bar, in restaurant, everywhere. So the local council take charge of communication. They welcome artists. They help us with the organization. Okay, and now I would like to speak about development audiences. I think the reason of the success of spring is the proximity of the shows, the undesignated venues, and the public area. It's an opportunity for inhabitants to discover their territory otherwise. And I forget something to say, the shows are free for inhabitants in villages and at the lowest price in the venues. You can see some photos. And I think there is another reason for the success of spring. The action we organize between artists and people and inhabitants. You can see, for example, a residence with Basinga. The inhabitants of these buildings practiced tightrope walking, made costumes, played music from their balconies. They are totally involved. And the team, the company settled in the neighborhood in its quarter for 15 days before their show. And just for the artist, I think spring is an interesting playground. And today the festival is known and famous, and but we became little, and now it's more famous. That's it. Thank you
very much, Christine. It's really impressive, I guess, to see to what extent you managed to set up this kind of organic relationship between all these different stakeholders. I'm quite also surprised the way you divided the roles for the leading of this program. I don't know if you have also some reactions, some questions. And there would be a lot to say only on this topic, obviously, but you were very clear. What I remember also from my conversation with Laurent is that he mentioned that it took a lot of time to grow this festival, even though it's just your 5th edition, if I'm not wrong. So it's really patient. It requires a patient work on the field to connect with each village government, with each stakeholder. So you were mentioning the performances in the bars. So I assume that it requires a lot of time to meet people and to engage them, not only the audience, but also some kind of intermediates, not venues, but places which have maybe other focus in mind. I mean, where you're a bar owner, maybe you don't think about organizing a circus performance. This really, I don't know if you want to tell us a bit more about that. The way you work on the field with people.
I think I am going to Laurent can answer, because he's the chief of spring, and but I agree. The main objective is the time of it, the time to organize all the relationship between the stakeholders, and it's along the year we have some discussion between all the stakeholders.
Yes. We have to take the time to organize the project, because the local council need to take the time also. If we want to have a real partnership with all the stakeholders, we have to explain how to participate together, how each stakeholder take place on the project. And like Christine said on the PowerPoint, we have we participate together to build on this project. Is the result of all the participants of all the stakeholders.
Yes, so it's really all about the design of the overall project, and maybe kind of mapping. You were insisting in your presentation on the mapping territory, and how you put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So you have the position of kind of assembler, federated entity. It's, I mean, it is very close from the experience you were mentioning about this circus on the periphery experience. But in this case, the institution carries on the project. So this is really impressive too. So it makes the link on the other part of the chain. So sorry, we're very, very late. Thank you very much for your talk, and thank you very much for staying with us. Wish you a nice spring festival. Informations, and possibly maybe one day we'll have some common tours between.
And
spring
we will welcome you with a great pleasure next year, maybe in a new meeting, wherever in the region.
With more anticipation. So.
Thank you for your invitation.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Just to stress something, that Rouen Metropole is candidate for European Capital of Culture.
Yeah.
And you did a very strong transition to our next panel with the audience development through performing arts. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.